Has the world gone crazy? Has the country gone crazy? Feels like it for sure. Do you feel like maybe you're crazy busy, stressed, and overwhelmed? Yeah, me too. We talked over the past couple of weeks about everything that is happening, the news and developments we're being bombarded with. Coming at us so fast it's hard to process it all, which we pointed out is by design. And all the gaslighting when we point things out and fight back, maddening. Let's talk about how to handle so much happening so fast, how to process it, and best deal with it as much as possible.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
Well, hello and welcome to the FreedHearts podcast. My name is Robert Cottrell and I'm here as always with
Susan Cottrell.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Connect with us at freedhearts.org. Don't forget, Susan does some very limited life coaching. If you're interested in that, please reach out to us. Hello at freedhearts.org. And there's also a link on the website for that. And all of our resources are right there. By the way, if you need something and you truly can't afford it, just reach out to us. We'll find a way to get it to you for free. These include our beloved adventure courses, whatever we have. We never want finances to be a stumbling block. So reach out to us if you need help with that. All right. Anybody out there feel like shit's going crazy? The country's gone crazy. Everything's nuts. Yeah, us too. I mean, or maybe you feel like you're crazy, or at least crazy busy, or overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been talking about that, us too. And we've been talking about all this that's been happening lately, the news and the developments. We're just bombarded with a barrage coming at us so fast, it's hard to even process it all, which we pointed out may be by design. In fact, we think it is by design. Mm-hmm. So today we want to talk about how to deal with all of this so much. It's like a war zone. So we're going to use the idea of an ER triage. So how do we process all of this? How do we deal with it as much as we can so we can keep caring for ourselves and caring for those we love and also responding in an effective way?
Yeah, the triage idea in an ER department. This is something I saw in a TED Talk a while back, and I've wanted to talk about it, and now seems to be the perfect time. And the TED Talk is by Daria Long. She's an ER doctor, and she talks about how the ER department handles so many crises so effectively. How do they do that? And she said, it's not by being crazy busy. We say that all the time, right? Don't we all, I'm crazy busy. She said, you'll never hear me say that because you can't run an ER department that way. Or we might say, I'm crazy overwhelmed. Okay, but that doesn't work because when you're in crazy mode, then you're less capable of handling the busy. And when you're in crazy overwhelm, then you're overwhelmed by what's coming at you. And crazy busy or crazy overwhelmed means stress. When we're in stress, our stress hormones rise, our executive function declines, our memory, our judgment, our impulse control deteriorate and activate the anger and anxiety areas of the brain.
Yeah, those have been activated lately.
Yeah, and that's not a good place to make a decision from. So how do we face incoming crises, what feels like ER level crises, without feeling crazy or overwhelmed? Well, she suggests we can bypass crazy mode and go to ready mode. Ready mode means whatever comes in through those doors, you're ready for it. You're prepared for it.
Yeah. I mean, the ER department is not shocked when there's a disaster. It's what they do.
Right.
So when there is a major accident on the interstate with an 18-wheeler or something else where people are coming through their doors, they're ready for it. They're prepared. Yeah. They expect it. They're equipped for it. And we are in an ER situation right now, and that's probably going to continue.
Yep.
With all this emergency development out there, these things happening.
Yes. And we're talking about things like, sweeping executive orders around birth certificates or transgender care or number of developments that we've seen already. It's understandable to get crazy overwhelmed, but it won't help us.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely an attack coming at us. And again, we we see an executive order and then a court stops it. So things are developing just rapid speed. And we talked about that last week. But to go into a panic about all of this, beloved, won't help us. And as wise people have been saying, this is by design. It's designed to shock and overwhelm us off of our game. So we don't know where to look. We don't know where to respond. We don't know who to call. We don't know anything. There have been these 200 plus executive orders in just the first handful of days. I mean,
wow.
he said he would do these things, and he's doing them. And just an aside, don't forget to find out that Ezra Klein Show podcast episode about Don't Believe Him. I think that really gives a lot of hope there.
Yeah.
But it fits with what we saw last time. I mean, the speed of it, the magnitude of it, how much power they're grabbing. It's more shocking, but it's meant to be shocking.
Yeah.
But we can see it's just the same thing, same song, different verse, louder volume.
You say that. It reminds me of the national anthem, where we all sing about, we're waving the flag and singing about unity and patriotism and God bless America. And we're kind of unaware. We're not thinking about that the subsequent verses are basically wiping the floor with the blood of the British. And the rockets' red glare and the bombs bursting in air, that's all those fireworks, that's war.
Yeah, they're not talking about fireworks.
Right. And it's gruesome warfare, but we sort of tone it down in our mind as we sing at football games or whatever, because it's too much to hold it, to think about that every time we say those words.
And we just talked about the gaslighting going on that tell us, oh, you're overreacting. Come on, just fear mongering. So we kind of even tone down the magnitude of all that's happening because it's just too much.
Right.
It's too much to hold.
It makes it small enough to hold.
Yeah, again, by design. So let's put aside, if we can, being shocked and appalled, because we've got to make sense of it and take our own steps.
Yeah. Yes, we need to keep our wits about us. So how do we move like an ER department from overwhelmed to ready mode, to be equipped? We have the ability to shape how we respond to crises. Our brains, as humans, our brains all process stress in the same way, in similar fundamental ways, but we can modify how we react in emergencies and in just day-to-day living, day in, day out stress. Yeah. This doctor said, whatever comes in through those ER double doors, even on those days that are horrific, we can handle it. We're ready. That's ready mode. We're trained for it, and you can train for it too. Yeah. She wasn't talking about all this. This was a few years ago.
Yeah. But now we're not trying to oversimplify this frightening time that we're facing right now.
Yeah.
I know many of you are absolutely terrified.
Yes.
On the contrary, we know that this is so unprecedented, this bold grab of power with zero concern for anyone else, especially the, quote, least of these, the most vulnerable. That's all the more reasons we need to Luke Holden. That's all the more reason to assess the situation and think very clearly through it. The bigger the crises, the more important it is to triage this.
Yeah.
And that's the first step going from crazy overwhelmed to ready mode, is to hardcore triage your life, prioritize into what we can do. And if we don't triage, then all we do is just respond to every crisis as code red. And we just can't live that way. We can't survive and we can't be effective that way.
Yeah.
And when you can't distinguish threat, real, direct, immediate threat from non-threat, then we react to everything with the same degree of intensity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we can't possibly handle all this stuff coming at us.
Yeah. I mean, weren't we already kind of at our limit with our, with the systemic issues that we already face? And now these unprecedented executive orders that threaten our very lives are coming at us at breakneck speed. We can't let everything be a crisis or our system will crash, which, remember, is the goal. They don't want us collecting our power and resisting. They want our systems crashed, inoperable, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah. And also, we literally double our level of stress hormones when everything is in a crisis. So we're not going to do that. That's not where we want to live. It's not where we can be effective. We want to be strategic with our energies and our heart, because the stress is incredibly harmful all by itself.
Do you remember, Rob, when the kids were young, and I'd ask you, what can I do to help you the most? And you said, just bring down the stress.
Yep.
And, from the kind of chaos in the house of my making usually.
No.
And that, and the kids.
No. Just
And
life.
the kids.
It was just life.
It was just life.
Five
with
kids.
All these kids.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how true your words were. I was like, okay, but what else can I do? And you would say, no, the stress, really the stress. And I say to you, listeners, the stress, no, really the stress. And that's what you want to bring down in your own life. Even when it feels like you're in an ER situation with bodies all around you crying for help, bullet wounds, heart attacks, broken arm, heart palpitations, or an asthma attack, you cannot respond to everything. And you definitely can't panic and still be effective. You can't get crazy busy and be effective. You have to choose. You have to triage. And in this case, what we're talking about here is triaging what's real, what's a real and present threat. What can I do something about?
Yeah, I know it's on reruns, but many of you may remember MASH, and in war, in a triage in war, and this was
the most popular show in the 70s,
this is kind
just
of
so you know.
This is kind of a cold thing to do, but you have to line up your patients in order of threats.
Yeah.
Who's life-threatening, who can wait. And that's kind of what we're talking about here with these executive orders and bills and
Scary
all
things.
these things, the scary things. They can't all be, and they're not all life-threatening. They're not all immediate. So we have so to triage.
They're not all even a real threat.
Right. So triage is resistance because they don't want us to triage.
Yeah, I think Ezra Klein said in that episode that, they want you in a flurry so that everything feels like a threat.
Right.
Because then you're really off balance. If you're only trying to grab your balance, then you're not actually doing something.
So to resist what they're trying to do here is to triage. Triage is resistance.
Yes.
Triage your life.
Yes, triage
So
is resistance.
number one, protect yourself. Protect your mental health. Beloved, stop. I'm saying this to myself. Stop doom scrolling immediately.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
I've noticed on my Facebook feed that it's feeding me stuff that's very right wing all of a sudden. And I keep saying, hide all these in the future, but it keeps feeding me this stuff. So stop doom scrolling immediately, please. We literally cannot handle everything that we can doom scroll.
Yes.
Mute your feed, unsubscribe to things, all the things. It's endless and it's too much to bear. We must prioritize. I know you may feel compelled to know what's going on, and we talked about finding trustworthy expert sources last week, but the amount of news that comes at us it's too much, and much of it is just a lie. It's false.
Yes.
It's not even stuff happening. It's just what ifs and possibilities. We simply cannot deal with all of that, beloved.
I don't even listen to the news. I literally don't listen. And if something is urgent, Rob will let me know. And I know that's a privilege, but I literally cannot process the news on an ongoing basis. Know yourself and do what's best for you. And bring in your capacity. Don't overestimate your capacity. Remember, the internet is designed to suck you in.
Now more than ever.
To take you down rabbit holes. That's right. Don't let it. That sucking sound of you being pulled into cyberspace, that is a tool of those who want to silence you. Don't do it.
Yeah. So that's number one. Protect yourself.
When the kids are preschoolers, there's an expression moms say. They say, "You keep them busy, or they'll keep you busy." And so these things are designed to keep you busy, so you won't keep them busy accounting for it.
Yeah. So that's number one. Protect yourself. Protect your mental health. Number two, self-care.
Okay. I'm going to be mom for a minute and say it's really important for you to put self-care first. I'm not kidding about that. I've been in a sort of a malaise myself, not wanting to do things I need to do. And I think that's kind of going around a little bit like the flu. But that's the attack we're under with the health issues that I've had to overcome, I know what I'm talking about here. I had let myself get under piles of stress with insufficient self-care. And I believe it was those piles of work and trauma that brought my health issues up in the first place. And my body was saying, stop. You need to focus on us, or we can't help you. Do some healing. And I'm guessing you're under piles of stress too with insufficient self-care. Am I right? And you need to do some healing too. Yes. So listen to Mama Susan, as my friend calls me, young friend. Listen to Mama Susan and take care of yourself. Here are some things you can do. Sleep. Increase your sleep. If you can't sleep, rest. You might say, I can't sleep, but you can rest. Meditate. If you think you can't meditate, find out what it is to meditate. Just close your eyes and rest. You need it. It's not a time waster. Be freaking kind to yourself, to your body. Love your body. A younger person told me they hate their body recently, and it broke my heart because it's the only place you have to live.
Yeah. So
love your body and take care of your body.
One thing our 2-year-old grandchild is learning is big body breath. And
Yes.
they're kind of stressed out and everything. And the parents say, big body breath. And they just go,
Big belly breath.
yeah, big belly breath.
Yeah. And they do it.
And they lift their hands and
It's
works.
calming.
It
Yes.
works. So
Physiologically.
yeah. So number 1, protect yourself. Number 2, self-care. Number 3, embrace imperfection. I mean that. Stop being a perfectionist. It's a trap.
Okay, so my guides in my journaling time have been telling me for a while to go for 80%. Seriously, 80%. That is good enough. I am a recovering perfectionist. I never even
Hi,
knew
Susan.
I was. Hi, Susan. I'm a Republican. Anyway, but I got it from my dad and my mother. I found out later kind of was that way. So I'm actively going for 80%. And I promise you, if you had a twitch as I said that, then this is for you. It will relieve your stress to remind yourself on a regular basis that you're not meant to be perfect. And so you don't over perfect. 80% is good enough. I promise you. And that standard of perfection, it didn't come from you. It was built into you from others. I know mine didn't come from me. It keeps you busy while they strip everything away from you.
Yeah.
And if we can be busy navel gazing, just a little more will be enough. Then that distracts us from what they're doing to us and what we need to be doing.
Yeah, that's so good. Number 4, simplify your life. I mean, science shows us that the more options we have, the longer each decision takes.
Yeah.
And the more decisions we must make, the more exhausted our brain gets and the less capable it is to make good decisions. I mean, brain fatigue is real.
It is. It is. You want to streamline that shit. Get rid of the extra bulk in your belongings, in your living space.
That makes such a huge difference.
Yes.
To declutter like that.
It does. I've lived both ways. And, as you know, and it's so much easier. It makes tasks easier to do, to reduce your daily decisions, to make your choices easier to make. I'm a messy creative, really. I've been this way all my life. And I'm the queen of lots of stuff everywhere because I don't want to forget a project. If I put it away, I might not think of it again for 6 months. So I need to see it. And you have told me in the past that there's this thing you can do where you make a list.
That's LIST, a list.
List of all the things you want to do. And I think you called it a to-do list. And maybe that would help me.
Yeah, trademark pending.
Yeah, trademark it. That's because that's a good idea. I realize that when I have to leave so many projects out so that I know, so I don't forget them, that they actually act as a kind of visual to-do list, kind of kicking me every time I see them.
Yeah.
So that I say, oh, yes, I've got that thing to do. Oh, yes, I've also got that thing to do, which is not great for your peace of mind and feeling centered.
Nope.
It's like to-dos emblazoned on your eyeballs and you can't see anything else.
You're constantly being kicked.
Yes. Yeah. So to clear up your space gives more room for peace where creativity and joy can emerge. So bear in mind that I'm saying that with literally projects on every flat surface. Rob can attest
If
to
you
it.
could see our surroundings right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Okay, number 5, know when to pull the plug. I mean, this is an unfortunate part of every hospital ER when there's just nothing more you can do. There's nothing you can do. And this includes tasks on your list, things that maybe you're doing because you feel guilty not to do it, things that don't give you life, that waste your time, that you have previously enjoyed, but now you're just no longer into it. I mean, that's part of triage to determine what you want to do and what you want to cross off your list.
Yeah. This includes determining what you can do something about and what you can't. So let go of what you can't do anything about so you can focus on what you can do something about.
Or it's not time to do something about it yet.
Right.
Again, put those things in order of who's bleeding the worst right now.
Yes.
What needs our attention right now.
In most of the battles out there, I have no way to help. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an elected representative. And I'm not going to wring my hands over those things where I can't affect change because it does me no good.
And there are things like that. We're not saying that's the case with a lot of legislation because phone calls are making a huge difference and taking that kind of action. So we're not saying that, but we're just saying there are things out there that have a clear action step that are immediate, that are real threats. And there are things out there that are just proposals or ideas that are meant to overwhelm us. We're trying to avoid that so we can be effective in our resistance. So we can stay in resistance mode, stay ready, and be effective in standing against all of this.
Yeah.
Now, some people are deeply decluttering to help prepare in case they need to move or move states or maybe even get out of the country. Yeah, I mean, not everyone who wants to can do that or should do that, I mean, we sometimes think of millionaire celebrities that we hear about moving out of the country, and we think, well, that's great, but, most of us are still here, hello, and we need community. We could use support. It just kind of feels like a time for all of us to be a bit light on our feet. You know?
And again, the more you remove what's unimportant to you, the more you can see what's important.
That's true.
The physical stuff, but also the mental and emotional. Weed out what does not deserve your attention so you have the bandwidth for what does. And I'm going to tell you, this includes relationships. When people who continue to invalidate you, to disrespect you, to misunderstand you, for those people, it may be time to pull the plug. We, as outliers, want to be kind and not be the one to want to give up. I know this. I see this pattern. We're conditioned this way. And we keep trying to fix a connection with somebody who's really not interested in fixing it. We know a lot of you had done that because I've gotten the emails from you. I've gotten the emails from parents saying, my child wants to quit me now because of who I voted for. And I basically say, well, yeah, that's a good thing to find out. Why don't you press into your own work and find out why that is?
Yeah, we did a whole episode about that, by the way, just a few back.
Yeah. And we'll talk more in a future episode about how to be at peace when you pull the plug and even how to know when it's time to do that.
Yeah.
But one of the best things that happen when you jettison your no saves, whether they're tasks or relationship, is you see clearly what does work for you, for your community, and the things around you that you really love. All of it. Closing out time wasters gives you time that you need for your priorities. And remember that noisier does not mean more urgent. Often the noisier it is, the less urgent it is. The ER example this doctor used was the patient clamoring for flavored coffee creamer. It was plenty noisy, but their medical need is minor. Whereas with the asthmatic, the quieter they get, the greater the risk. So don't be confused by noise, things clamoring for your attention. The news item that may or may not even be real can be very noisy. So see item 1 to turn those streams off. And your family who keeps throwing verses at you, or haters who keep pushing you off balance. These can be noisy, but they're not where you're going to find your life. So turn down the noise. Block, withdraw, unfollow, whatever you need to do for your well-being, do that. Then redirect that time and energy into yourself, into self-care, your community of support. And when you sort out what or who doesn't support you, you can get down to those who do support you and breathe a lot easier. If you try to do everything, you won't be effective at anything. So you'll have no hope of saving your good things.
That's their goal.
Yes. And then when you see just your top priorities, you'll find joy. And we often feel like, I should be doing something. But self-care is doing something to find peace in ourselves as we are, despite those who tell us otherwise, to find the joy in a hostile environment. Yeah. That is resistance. Joy is resistance. Saying no is resistance.
Yeah. What's the RuPaul saying? How the hell are you going to love yourself if you can't love someone else?
Yes.
And if we're, how the hell are we going to help anybody else if we don't even, if we're overwhelmed with what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, peace is the opposite of stress, beloved.
Yeah.
Too much can be overwhelm, and simplifying can be peace. So go easy on yourself. It can be a big project. We know that.
Yeah.
So finally, number 6, be present. Be present. Get out of your head. Move beyond the fear into love and into the present.
Yes. And meditation has really helped me a lot with that. Will help you too. I know everywhere you turn, you hear meditation. That's because it works. But the doctor in this TED Talk told about a woman who'd come into labor, and the doctor realized that the cord was wrapped not once, but twice around the baby's neck. And that twice wrapped cord exponentially increases risk to the baby. And she said, I was the only doctor and I was scared, but I couldn't let that derail me. She said she set aside that initial fear and thought, what do mom and baby need from me? And then she and her team did what was needed, what they were trained to do, and delivered a healthy baby.
Yeah, and we had that with Hannah.
We did.
We had that situation of that cord wrapped twice around her neck. And it was so...
We did.
It was so interesting because you're in this dimly lit birthing room, and it's beautiful, and it's, the baby's coming, and everything's all nice and everything else, and it's just the doctor and maybe a nurse, and I was up kind of near your head up there, and I was watching, and everything was fine, and then suddenly the doctor did this whistle, or gave this one word I forget, but this whistle, and it was like a switch was flipped, and everything changed. It moved swiftly in action because they were prepared.
Yeah.
And within seconds, they did everything they needed to do. And the cord was tight, but they had the people in there, and they moved it, and they got Hannah out, and they squeezed. Everything happened within seconds. This changed because they were ready.
Yes.
They were ready. They weren't overwhelmed. They weren't stressed. I mean, they may have been stressed, but I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
But they were ready, and they were effective because you've heard Hannah. She's out here. She's healthy, and her vocal cords are good. So she can sing
our song.
Yeah,
man, I have goosebumps when you tell that story. Though I was out of it, but you saw the whole thing, and we talked about later how we almost chose a different hospital. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yep.
It was closer to us instead of 45 minutes from where we were living in the country at the time. And we feel sure that if we had chosen that country hospital, she wouldn't have made it.
Absolutely.
Oof,
yeah.
Chills.
You don't want your ER docs to panic in an emergency. You don't want them to catastrophize. Is that right? Is that how you say that?
Yes, catastrophize.
This sounds so wrong coming out of my mouth, not yours, but my mouth. And wring their hands and imagine the worst. You want them to put aside their fears and move into calculated action.
Yes.
Beloved,
yes.
That is exactly what those who are trying to take away our rights and erase trans people do not want us to do.
Yeah.
And that's put aside our fears and move into calculated action.
Yeah.
And damn it, that is what we're going to do.
Yes, in our emergency situation, that's right. Set aside our fear and be present to what's real, what's now, and what we can act on and what we can't.
Yeah.
You know, the gift of fear, which I talked to you about before and highly recommend. He talked about when there's a real threat, not just you're imagining somebody coming in the house, but when somebody really comes in the house, there's this slowing down of time and you become very present. You don't have time to catastrophize. You have to...
See, it sounds so natural for me.
You are suddenly very alert and present.
Yeah.
And there's power. And you need that power. Your body's equipped to power, but not with things when that's not true.
Right, because if we get stuck in our fear, we just overload. We just overload.
Yeah.
And become totally ineffective. And we're not going to do that, beloved. No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, we get a whirling, what is it, a basketball or
Whirling dervish?
No, the little ball on the computer.
The spinning circle. That's right.
Yeah. So how do you get out of your own head? Focus on what's needed in the moment. In a panic attack, you rub your hands together to feel your own body. You know, this is those things. Check out your surrounding all around you. What are the floor is made of? You know, what color are the walls? Do you need to eat? Do you need to scream? What can you do to become present? The practice of meditation over time will acclimate you to being present instead of swirled up in your thoughts. To focus outward can help you get out of your head to see the person in front of you, what they need, what they're afraid of. And are you able to help?
Yeah, I mean, that's community, beloved.
That's community.
That's what people around us that's what they're doing right now. That's what I know you're doing right now in your own way. We encourage you not to isolate because it's way too easy to get this tunnel vision where you no longer see the bigger picture and you can be really tempted to just give up. So please don't isolate. Find your community.
And that internal voice of fear can skitter us right off the edge. You know that. But when we move our brain into compassion, research shows this, that we disrupt that internal droning voice of doom. It's called a pattern interrupt. We widen our perception and our brain takes in a broader view. We see more possibilities and we can make better decisions. So get out of your own head so that you can get out of your own way. And I don't know if I told you this, but the doctor in the ER situation in the TED Talk said as she walked out of that mother's room after the delivery, some of the patients were sort of lingering, oblivious to their own emergency needs because they wanted to know that the baby was okay. And that's community. Many of you are afraid or actively hurting right now. And we as community want to know you're okay, that you don't get steamrolled. We as community are drawn to care for each other.
Okay, so big belly breath. Reclaim your personal power. Stand in the truth of who you are. Find your ground so you're not blown away by this tsunami. Look for those who are standing strong. Let it help you stand strong. Maybe you have people around you showing you what it is to be grounded and ready, or maybe you're the one that others will see. Community is vital. Being together, supporting each other. We talk about #resistance. Triage is resistance. Self-care is resistance. Self-love is resistance. Community is resistance. Empathy is resistance. Imperfection is resistance. Joy is resistance. Saying no is resistance.
You remember Fred Rogers' fantastic advice. I know I've said this. When he was a child and he'd get upset about some disaster he saw on TV, and his mother would say, look for the helpers. Just saying that right now myself kind of gives me a wave of peace. And now is a good time to look for the helpers. And helpers are all around us, people fighting hard against this affront to humanity. It can really help you uncrazy yourself in the midst of that intentional crazy making. Remember, they want you overwhelmed, but we're not going to fall for it.
Yeah, they want us overwhelmed, so we'll be ineffective, and we are not going to let them do that.
We didn't. We didn't come into this lifetime to give up.
Yep. We are working in ER at this time, in this place in history, to make a difference.
Yes. And that's what I know and remind myself of every day. That's why we came here.
Yep. We love you, beloved. You're not alone. We're in this together. We love you. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
You've been listening to the FreedHearts podcast. We have extensive resources and vibrant, inclusive community for you at freedhearts.org. Please just come say hello. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for the podcast, just email us at podcast@freedhearts.org. Audio engineering is provided by Luke Johnson. The music is provided by our daughter, Hannah Cottrell, who is Grammy nominated. You can find out more about her and her music at hannahcottrell.com. Please share, subscribe and follow on your favorite platform, and support us if you can. Thanks for listening.